One. What up, ladies and gents? Contractors, calling all contractors. This episode is for you. I know a couple, and if you're trying to think about working your way out of this business or how to create it so that you don't got to be stuck in it all the time, this episode's for you. Let's get this one on the road. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Boss. All right, ladies and gents, let's look. Constructions and many of the trades are very smart career moves. They're hard work at times, but the work is very satisfying. And when done well, you can build a true business out of it. Sadly, not many contractors are building a company that they can walk away from. Instead, they often work until they die or until a family member takes over the business. But today's guest has found a way out of the construction business. He was able to exit by selling his company, and now he's a coach and mentor to young aspiring entrepreneurs. So let's welcome to the program, Mr. Henry Goudreau. Man, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. All right, I had a trigger happy finger there, hitting a bunch of buttons at the same time. So we got this one ready to go. Henry, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, let's do this. I want to start off with your background, because when you set up your application, you had a number of different things, and you have a lot of experience in this space, and you've done something successfully that a lot of contractors can't do, which is exit this type of business. So let's talk about you. I mean, you wrote that you knew what you wanted to do exactly out of high school, and I kind of want to hover on that for a second because I teach high school seniors. They're about to graduate in June, and most of them have zero clue about what they're going to do, including myself. When I was at that age, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. Was it just innate? Were you born with it, or did it kind of develop over time?
Well, actually, my dad was a contractor. He had a degree in accounting. And when I was a little one, he always took me with him when he went to the jobs. And that, I just loved seeing that. And funny thing is, when I became a contractor many years later, I actually went in and redid some of the jobs that he did when I was a kid, a little guy, you know. And it kind of really set me, wow, you know, it's a legacy, you know. But I wanted to be a contractor. I did not want to work for my dad. I had enough of that at 12 years old. Hey, guess what? You're going to work this summer. But
I can understand that one for sure.
Yeah, it gives you great work skills, and you know, you really understand. But you know, I had better things to do. But anyways, we were both pretty much the same personality and mindset, and I knew we'd be banging heads like two rams. So if you knew me in high school, and my nickname is Buddy, if you knew me in high school and you said, hey, we're graduating, what are you going to do? I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to be a contractor just like my father. I wanted to make lots of money, and I wanted to retire at 35. I had no clue how I was going to do that. None whatsoever, you know. And back in the 60s, about the only type of education you could get for construction was to become a civil engineer. Mm. And I went to Lowell Institute of Technology up in Lowell, Massachusetts, only because they had construction methods and procedure class, and I loved it. I just absolutely enjoyed it. But I also took business at Northeastern University, and that got me started. I went to work for the Commonwealth of Mass as a design engineer, and that was done purposely because I said, if I'm going to become a contractor, I need to know this whole process on the other side. And I worked in design for highways. I also then moved to bridges, and I moved to waterways. So I got a real good education and how this whole bidding process in public works was done and so forth. And I learned things. Then I went out into the business world and very quickly made a name for myself. I was able to do, I guess they called me the golden boy of huge concrete pours. And and I kind of enjoyed it. I could sit down and figure out all the forms and, what we needed and et cetera and so forth. And that got me up as area engineer for Area 1. I worked the second and third shifts. And the reason they put me on the second and third shift was because I had the talent of working the concrete. And that is nothing but just one huge concrete pour up there. And that went very well. And from there, I got an offer to go to Saudi Arabia. And I said, well, I said, I'm feeling good. I could go to Saudi Arabia in a single status, and I could save a lot of money. And I negotiated a very good contract for myself. I was familiar with what they were paying and how they were working it. And I knew, I wouldn't go if I had to do it that way. So I basically sat down for lunch with the owner of the company. I said, if you want me, here's what you have to give me. And he said, you got it. And I said, well, that's not all. I got some more things. And he gave me everything I wanted. He says, all I know is I hear wonderful things about you, and I just got this big job in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, for Aramco, building a sewage treatment plant, and never done one before. And we need someone to go in there and figure out all the forming and how we're going to do it. And I said, yeah, I can do that. I'm your guy. And so I went over there in single status, and I worked over there. For a year, I put the money aside and started my own business. And that was...
that's how it all got started. And that's not bad. You went from buddy in high school to the golden pourer, right? The golden concrete pourer. I mean,
Yeah.
That's pretty an intense travel. I like how you also kind of narrowed a couple things in here. And I want to kind of talk about this because, again, education is so important. I'm not a big fan these days of college unless you're going for a specific specialty. I feel it's just too expensive today to kind of figure it out in college. You got to kind of decide what you want to do first and then go all in my opinion. But you didn't stop on your education. Right. And this is where I think it's super valuable. You went and found mentors. You went and started working to learn. You went and immersed yourself in this industry that you wanted to be a part of. And I think that's really where the value of education is today, is we are so inundated with information. You and I both, as we were growing up, if we wanted to learn something or if we wanted to know something, well, tough. You had to go ask or read a book or go to the library. Whereas today, if I wanted to know something, I just take out my phone and figure out what the answer is right away. So it's not for the lack of information, but it's the application of what you're learning that makes that big difference in the world for you. You're able to take on and bid these major jobs because of that time that you spent working in that field, literally spending the time. It's almost like a reverse college. They paid you to give you the education that you were looking for. I mean, that's super awesome. And that next thing that you talk about, that education and mentoring and how important it is, literally in your story, it's part of the foundation of what made you become who you are. What do you think about education or the importance of education and mentoring today?
Well, first of all, I think everyone's got to understand exactly what they're getting out of education at any college or any trade school. You're getting the general knowledge. That's all you're getting. All right. It's funny. I was talking to someone just today, and he was telling me about, he didn't really like to go to college because, they teach you stuff that was out of date. I said, nothing's out of date. They're just teaching you general knowledge. Mm. And what makes people successful, takes you way up to, wherever you want to go, is what I call specialized knowledge. Mm. Now, when I first started my business, I did not have the specialized knowledge that I needed to run a business. Yeah, I had the specialized knowledge to build the farms and do all that other stuff, but I didn't have the business specialized knowledge. And it was tough. The first 6 months were really, really rough. And then I picked up a couple of jobs and I did very well. That's a whole other story in itself. But I was quick one day to realize that I was fallen into the trap. And the contractors, they have this trap. And it's that idea that you are the business, that everything revolves around you. And it doesn't. Okay. So I asked myself one of the most important questions, and I know to this day I still talk about it. I say, okay, what makes the business work? Think about that. It can't be just one person, because what happens if that one person falls off a cliff?
Yeah, done.
It's done.
Done deal.
And from that question, I started to get a lot of my answers. And I sat down to myself and I said, you know what? I'm a pretty smart guy. I mean, I've got the education. I just need to drill down and figure out what makes this work. And out of that, I built my business model, which worked very well for me. And I've taken contractors from nothing to 50 million, 100 million, 175 million, and making handsome profits and income for themselves. You know, it does work because it doesn't depend on you. You are the master of your ship. You design where you want to go. You figure out what coordinates and all that stuff. And the business gives you a lot of information if you're set up properly with the right business metrics and so forth. And it can verify, yes, I can do this. No, you can't do that. And if you just let it do its job, you'll be surprised how much easier it is for you as the business owner.
I want to kind of hover on this section right here, because this is really the crux in that construction business. Well, it just in the vocational businesses and it is an industry, period. There are so many times that I speak to contractors who do phenomenal work, right? I mean, they do great work, whether it's painting, whether it's framing, foundation pouring, finishing work. There's some people who have immense, tremendous skill. And their name is on the sign, right? They're the ones, it's John Smith's plumbing or, whatever it is, it's their name that's on the sign. And so there's a lot of them that feel like this is my business. My work is leaving my legacy behind. But I think there's that part of that is ego. The other part of that is, do you want to own your job or do you want to actually have a business? So when you sit down and talk to some of these contractors and you're helping them exit and build actual companies, asking that question of, how does this business work? That's not so easy when you're dealing with an ego sometimes, right? So, walk me through some of that coaching that you end up doing with them. How do you get them to kind of let go? Because in almost anything, right? In any business, there is no employee. There is nobody who's going to come in and do the work the way you do the work. That's going to put in the effort the way you put in the effort. The best we can hope for is to find somebody who's maybe a 70, 80% version of you, and then allow them to make some mistakes along the way, right? But that's easier said than done. So walk me through some of this coaching that you talk to contractors about to help them take, I think, that very first step to allow them to build a business to exit from.
Okay, I'll talk a little bit about my mentoring program, because the mentoring program is a step up from coaching, okay? The typical person who comes to me is doing anywhere from $1 to $5 million a year. They've owned their business 10 years or more. They're between the ages of 35 and 55, and they all say the same thing. They can't seem to push the business any farther. They're stuck, okay? They're wearing too many hats. They're tired, and they're not making much of an income. I'll give you an example. I spoke to a person a little while back doing $3 million a year, and he was making about $80,000, and that was his income. Think about it.
That's tough. That's tough. It's too many times we look at that top line revenue and we feel like it's amazing, right? I'm bringing in $3 million a year. Yeah, but how much are you keeping?
Yep, and that's the main question. Okay, I usually ask them, how much are you making for a profit? And let's say they say $80,000. And I'll say, well, how much are you making for an income for yourself? $80,000. So you made no profit. No, I made $80,000. No, you didn't. You took it. You lived on it. And you and I know one thing. If I make more money, my lifestyle will increase.
Mhm.
All right. So if I make 80,000 next year, I make 100,000, still not enough money because I've increased my lifestyle over 100,000 because I felt I was doing so good. It's just human nature. All right. But what I do with them is I ask very pointed questions. And then I ask the next thing, and this was an important question. What do you think it's costing you?
Mm.
You know, you're leaving money on the table. You got a leaky bucket, whatever you want to think. But what is it costing you? Do you have any idea whatsoever? And they'll say, no, not really, but I think it's a lot of money. Well, I can take them through a business evaluation, which I put everybody through anyways. And at the end of the business evaluation, it will calculate how much you're leaving on the table. And it's insanely accurate. I've given it to thousands of people, even $1 billion a year contractors. And when I put that number out there, they all go, that's what I'm losing. I know it. I know it in my bones right now.
It hurts to see that number. What is like, I'm thinking about the construction industry, and I'm thinking about buddies of mine that are in this business, and they have cash spurts, not necessarily cash flow, right? And that's kind of one of the struggles in that business. And for them to be able to visually see what that number would be that they're living on the table, that would I think open a lot of eyes. What are some of the main problems in that construction business that forces them to leave that kind of money on the table?
Basically, it's the lack of good business skills, just like my dad said, you know, and you know, when my father told it to me, you know, they got great construction skills, but you make your money with your business skills. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? And he very simply put it, you could be the best finished carpenter in the world, the best roofer in the world, whatever you want. But if you don't charge the right price, if you don't manage your business and manage your financial affairs, you're never going to make any money. Mm. You're going to be stuck right there for the rest of your life. That's just, and I'll tell you, there's enough people out there that I know. That's true. I mean, you know, I've had guys 65 years old call me up and say, well, you know, sometimes I make a lot of money, sometimes I make no money. Okay, so, you know, you fall right into the same basket as those people where they don't build a business, they build a job to go to and get a paycheck. That's it. And you'll never make money earning a paycheck. You'll never have, I like to tell people, you'll never build wealth with a paycheck. You won't, you know, and you got to make that paycheck. And on top of that, you've got to make profit, which now you've got a chunk of money that you can decide what you want to do with. And I used to love that. I mean, that's what I did. I took a reasonable salary from myself and my business. And at the end of the year, when everything was done, I got this huge bonus.
Well, but then that's the cool thing about having a business, right? Now you're looking at that huge bonus, especially we're now right about to be in December, which means you start to look at the end of the year. And this is where you start to really think about what's this bonus for? Because you could easily, you know, take it and go to Tahiti or something, go on vacation or whatever. But knowing you're mentoring these guys to build a business. When they have that nest egg, it usually becomes an investment into their business. Construction workers are oddly alike. Where do you think they tend to place a lot of this nest egg once they understand, they give themselves that reasonable salary, they actually have a profit built in? What are some of the things that contractors spend their profits on so that they can actually exit?
Well, unfortunately, they spend their money on the wrong things.
Okay? Tools and trucks.
I'll tell you a quick story. I know he won't mind it because we talk about it all the time. But I had a client out of the Fort Myers area named Rob ONeill Industries, and I moved him right along. He was doing, maybe 200,000 or 300,000 a year, but he was out there doing the hammering in himself. And he hurt his back. He had it fused, and the doctor says, "Forget it. You can't be that." This kid was a young kid. He was in his 20s when he came to me. He's about 32 right now. And he came to me and he said, "I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my house." I said, "No, don't worry about it. If you can hold off for a while, we'll work." And he did. He jumped into the program, and he was one of the best students I had. I mean, he really dove into it. And I think it's because his back was up against the wall. He's done. He's smoked, So he really threw himself into it. And after about 2 or 3 years, he was doing pretty good. I say we only because I get so close with them. I become their confidant, their friend, and everything else. But he got his first big bonus. And he said to me, he said, "Hey, Henry," he says, "I'm going to go buy one of those big 4-wheel diesel pickup trucks." I said, "The heck you are. You are not buying one of those." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And this is part of the agreement that I have with my clients. If I say no, it's no. All right. And if you can't handle that, don't come to work for me. But I am looking out for your best interest. That's it.
Or do not. There is no try.
Exactly, Yoda. Lay it out there. Lay it out there. Tell him this is it.
Yeah. And he said to me, "Why?" And I said, "Well, let's talk about your competitors. You know your competitors because I told you have to know your competitors." I said, "Do they all drive those big trucks?" "Yeah, that's why I want one." I said, "So you want to look just like them?" Think about that for one moment.
A little bit of humble pie there.
And he said, "Well, no, not really. I think I'm more professional." I said, "And you are a professional." And I branded him as a luxury remodeler. And it took off. He does a lot of work in the Naples area. And he listened to me. And I said, "You still got that, I don't know how you say it, scion.
Scion.
Scion. All right. Okay." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "It's white, if I remember correctly." "Yeah." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Let's get it wrapped, the whole thing. Okay. Have them design it. We'll take a look at it. We'll change things." And that's what he did. He went and he got it wrapped, and the business just catapulted right up. People were seeing him driving down the street and following him. "Hey, you are a luxury remodeler. I just bought this $1 million condo. I want a new kitchen, a new bathroom." And here he is, 32 years old. He's doing very well for himself. He's doing about $5 million in sales, and he's really crushing it. And anybody, now here's the best part. And we always joke about this. He never graduated from high school. Okay.
Wow.
But he got in trouble and they wouldn't let him graduate. So, I mean, that's the real story. But anyways, he just put his head into it. And my Lord, that kid knows his numbers better than anybody else,
And that's the thing, though. It's funny because the students that I have in my class are not the best high school students. There's a reason why they're in my class, right? There's they didn't do so hot. However, it doesn't matter what the school system says. When a human decides that they want to learn something, there is nothing you can do to stop that person from learning. They're going to immerse themselves, just like we talked about earlier, where you went and started working and learning. There was nothing that was going to get in your way from learning. Now, there's things that might stop the velocity in the speed of which you learn things, but you are going to learn that stuff. And I think, when you talk about your client here, back against the wall, he's got to do something. He's got to make a change. There was nothing that was going to get in his way. He was going to go into your program. He was going to learn everything he possibly can. He's going to go into his business, learn everything he possibly can. He went from making $200,000 a year to $5 million a year, right? I mean, that's a huge jump, but those are the results regardless of your education level. Yep. It does mean you need to continue your education, but it doesn't mean you needed that formal one to make something happen. Man, by the way, that's a great case study there for you to take somebody from 200,000 to 5 million a year. That's super impressive. Tell me a little bit more. If people are interested in finding out, they're contractors, they're ready to take that next step, what's that process like? How do we reach out to you?
Okay, the process is you go to www.contractorscoaching.com and check on the mentoring, and you'll read down, and there's a button that you push, and that will schedule a call with me. All right. So Tuesday is my call day. I don't talk to a lot of people. I mean, I had calls today. I spoke to both of them. But that's the day I'm willing to sit down and talk to anybody about the problem in their business and explain it to them. I'm not a pushy salesperson. I look at it this way: if I have to push you, you're probably not the right client for me, because I love my clients. They're the best in the construction business. I'll tell you right now, they are just awesome people. And they go from telecommunications to remodelers to roofers to electricians to, you name it. And they're great people. And we're like a family, and, we get along very well. But I'm not afraid to tell them when you ain't going to do that. No, that's the wrong move, and I've had so many of them tell me one of the things they love about me is they know for a fact I've got their best interests at heart. I wouldn't go down that road. Come on, we're going to go down this road. This is the right road to go down. And it takes a while to master the skill of the business model. So they're usually with me 4 to 6 years before they break off on their own. Okay. Although I do have 2 clients have been with me for 20 years, and it's a different type of relationship. They like to think of me as the chairman of their board of directors. And I like to think about it. Yeah, I'm the chairman. If you want to do anything, I need to see the numbers. I need to see the facts, how this is going to help, how it's going to help your business. And we've got a great relationship. One is closing in on $100 million a year, and the other one is closing in on $18 million a year. So.
It's something you said kind of subtly, it caught my attention. You're like, Tuesdays is the day that I make my phone calls. And this is one of those things that I've learned that a lot of business owners do not do. They don't take control of their time. When I first started the podcast, I was super flexible on what time you could have as a start time. And it made me scheduling the rest of my life damn near impossible until we made some changes. My brother is literally in the room. I'm at his place doing the show right now, and he's playing video games because why? He structured his business where he can do certain things, and there's days where he does calls, and there's times where he does certain things, and the rest of that time, don't matter what you do with it. It's your time. Yep. And that's something that professionals have to learn over time. When we bring on a new insurance client, we're like, look, this is our criteria. And he's like, look, I'm not talking to anybody unless they do X, Y, and Z. And at that point, that's when you have the conversation. Because at the same time, like you're describing, if you're not willing to do those things, we're probably not a match. And that's a hard thing for, especially in the trades. Sometimes some clients are not a good match. Even though I know you're itching for that next paycheck and you're trying to secure that job, the headache might be just so tremendous. It's not totally worth it. I want to, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. And before we head out, what do you think about that time blocking and setting up your schedule? I mean, you've been out of the actual doing the work for quite some time. When you transitioned over to on the coaching, mentoring, kind of doing your own thing, how does that time blocking work for you?
Well, it was pretty much how I ran my construction business. I did not return telephone calls until after 3:00 in the afternoon. All right. And so I blocked out all those calls so I could get my work done. And during the nice weather, I used to take Fridays off. No one knew where I was. Only my personal secretary, she knew where I was in case there's something went wrong, and she'd get a hold of me. But I had to block that time off. Other than that, if I worked from, I used to get up at 4:00 in the morning, go to the gym, 4:30, take a shower, and either be on a job at 6 or be in the office at 6. And I stayed there sometimes till 10:00 at night. I got my work done. When you bid and work, I had over 100 employees out in the field. I worked from the Canadian border all the way down to Puerto Rico, did a lot of government work for the Navy, Coast Guard, and so forth. So, there's you got to put the time in when the time is needed. That's what you got to do. But somewhere along the line, you got to be able to take time off, whether it be go on a vacation, spend time with your wife, or do something that you find really takes the edge off. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You need a little you time every once in a while. Henry, thank you very much for coming on the show. Last little thing. Is there any final thoughts or any last minute things you wanted to get off your chest and share with the audience?
No, I really enjoyed talking to everyone here, and I hope that they got something out of it. And if you do have a contractor friend that you know needs help, because you're seeing it, give them my name, have them contact me. Okay.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gents, that's all we got for you guys today. Construction people, you know what's up. I know you're probably listening to podcasts, running your crew while you're driving, in line at Home Depot, wherever it is. And if you're sitting there thinking, man, what am I doing this for? You need to figure out a way out. And so you want to reach out to Henry. His website, by the way, was scrolling across the bottom, but in case you're only listening, it's contractorcoaching.com, contractorcoaching.com. Stop by there, schedule a call. He'll hit you back up on Tuesdays. But from there, you can figure out what the next steps are. If this is an exit strategy that you're looking for, you never know until you actually reach out for help. Sometimes you need help picking up those 2x4s. This time you might need help getting your business in line. So make sure you guys stop by. Coaching for Contractors is his Facebook, and of course, contractcoaching.com. Henry, thank you very much for being on the show today, ladies.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.